يا لغتي عربية حسبي بأنك منطقي وبياني عربية قلبي.
Is it the right way?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. So I'm not sure I could say it exactly like that, but it's that I don't know for sure. So I don't want to jump into something with my spirit entirely if I'm not completely sure. You know, I want to be open.
The best fit model.
Well, I am for me.
As in just simply saying I don't know.
Well, no, I have my own ideas of morality. Like they're influenced by society, by religion, by our history, by you guys, by myself, by everything. But I have my own ideas of morality, and you have yours, and you take it from religion, and that's fine. I don't need to associate myself with a religion for me to have a worldview. Yeah. So I just don't need it.
Based on the fact that you're open to the idea that religion, are you based on? Could it be true? Could there be truth behind religion? You're open to that.
There could be. There could be.
You haven't got to that stage yet, but you're open to it.
It's possible.
Right.
When I got to your stage, the biggest fear for me was, well, what if I go? Because I was all about the year after. So do you ever question yourself about the year after?
Yeah.
What if you go on this set mind that you've got now, But then you naturally...
It's about, maybe I don't understand the question, about what happens after you die.
The year after, because from your own understanding of no religion, there's no answer to the year after.
No, there's not the definitive answer.
So from your understanding, you're going to die, and then it's just going to be.
It could be. No, but I'm open. I'm open to it. I mean, it's out of my control, though.
Have you've investigated religions?
So what? Superficially, to be honest, because I'm not a scholar. It's not an area that I read into much. I mean, I read into many other things, but.
Like what?
Well, Stoic philosophy. That's the one thing I'm reading into recently. World history, politics, these things. Religion's on there. I'm going to get to it. But there's a lot of books.
For you, so when you look at all of these other competing theories and beliefs, for you, is the evidence the same all across the board, or does it fall heavier on the scales for some things more than others?
All right. So I'm probably not. I'm not
agnostic. I suppose if you want to be a true agnostic, you have to somehow believe that none is better than the other. And if you believe that the evidence weighs heavier for one thing, then surely that would be the best way to go.
You could look at it like that, but I could say that nothing convinces me yet. So none of it. Now, as you say about different evidence weighing higher, possibly, but as I just said, I can't give you a good answer because I haven't researched it enough. So it's possible that if I do, I will come to a stage where I go, well, that's more realistic, and maybe I would go with it. But I'm not sure that's the basis of belief, though.
Do you have one that seems to be more plausible than others?
No.
So they're all equal to you?
As at my current stage of knowledge,
Yeah, so that means you haven't read a lot into the religions.
No, I haven't.
I understand where you're coming from.
What about yourself, Neil?
Well, what about?
Where are you now?
No, I'm a believer. I embraced Islam 4 years ago.
Well, I was wondering because you said that.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I made this T-shirt. It says.
Can we take this? Can we get?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So.
You embraced it 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Where were you? Was in here or were you in?
I live in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I went through a period of intense kind of pressures with my personal life, which had been spinning in the wrong direction completely, and I found I couldn't find salvation in friendships or family, friends. There was nowhere that I could turn that answered my questions, and eventually I looked at the world around me and I thought, actually, there are signs here that I'm not reading the signs properly. There are signs here, and I started to look outside of myself for those signs and how to interpret them. And a lot of it is political, social. I started thinking, why are these Muslim countries being bombed? Why is Islamophobia rising up? And the center to all of these questions was Islam. And I thought, okay, what is this Pandora's box? opened it up and just thought I'll just dive in. So that's what I did.
What came out, could I just ask, what came out at you the most about Islam? So you opened up the box. What is it that made you maybe go from a position I don't know to
because one thing in particular, and that was in the Quran it talks about, because I started reading the Quran, about the ayat in the Quran, and the word ayah, it means sign, if you translate that into English, right? And it also says, even if you weren't given the Quran, you had the ayat in the world around you, in nature, right? So that means that everything around us is an ayah, right? Everything is pointing towards God.
So just that tree.
Everything is pointing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you interpret it with the right eyes, okay? And that to me basically was like a moment of plethora between the doctrine of Islam and what is in fact the reality of religion, and religion is an esoteric, human-centered thing, and it's correct, it is human-centered, right? But when you read the Quran, you realize that it teaches you to interpret the world around you in a very poetic way, with an aesthetic way, should I say, right? And so as human beings, that taught me it's not just about a book and indoctrination, there's an aesthetic dimension to it. And when you listen to the Quran, even without understanding it, you get some aesthetic inner dimensional activity happening that can almost make you cry, you know, with the right recitation, okay?
That's me.
I got a story about that.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't tell you though, because you're gonna love it. You're gonna love this story.
I knew there was something else coming. Yeah, come on.
I know, but I want to qualify this with, I've had similar situations, similar spiritual experiences without any association with Islam. So I would, from my perspective, I know it sounds very cheesy to talk about a spiritual realm and stuff, but that's what we're talking about. I don't think, for me personally, it's not isolated in Islam. I think it's a human thing. It's something that we probably feel intrinsically, and I don't know why, right?
But that's the other thing which I came back to. That was another lesson I learned, was about what is the fitra. You know, what is fitra? You know, fitra is this innate knowledge that we're given, right? Which
As a kid.
as a baby, as a child,
Right.
And every human being has it, right? And fitra is in Islamic, it's a gift. So when you look at Islam with those lenses, and you start to realize that it teaches in Islam that every corner of the globe, every culture, every civilization was delivered prophets. You know, was delivered the message, right? So which basically means that all of these different faces of religion have the roots in the same inner dimensional truth of humanity, right? So what you're fighting against is the brand of Islam, rather than the fact.
I'm not fighting.
I'm not saying, when I say you, I have no idea what you're fighting against, but really like people who have concerns about Islam as being an indoctrined like thing. When you start looking at it as a global reality with many different faces, that, you know.
Yeah, sure. This guy likes
You good, yeah?
Just over here.
Just over there. Oh, Allah, sorry, sorry, bro. Maybe go closer to the fence.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Yeah. Then in essence, like, Islam didn't begin with the Prophet Muhammad. Islam, when I say Islam, I mean Islam with the lowercase I. Okay, you've heard about this lowercase I and capital I.
No.
So Islam, capital I, is with the Prophet Muhammad, subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, you know, peace and blessings be upon him.
Yeah.
You know, he brought as a prophet, as many of the other prophets, the same message. So in Islam, when you read the book about all of the other prophets addressing their people, they're saying, you know, a nation of Muslims, you know, a nation of believers, which basically means that anyone who submits to Allah throughout history has been a Muslim. right? Not just the branded Muslim of since Prophet Muhammad. Any believer in God.
It's a semantic thing.
Yeah.
If you mean belief in spirituality, then I could agree with you. But if you mean that all of them,
okay, but what is spirituality? When you say spirituality, what do you mean? Because that's a branded term as well.
We can try and define it.
Yeah.
So you could maybe a term would be trying to have a conception of things that we can't currently perceive.
The esoteric, metaphysical thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we could call it that for ease.
Yeah, but like if spirituality in the West now, a lot of people, they do their job, right, and then they want a bit of spirituality, so they'll do a bit of yoga, right, or go traveling to India or whatever, and get do some new age stuff.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I'm saying that's like, okay, that's like Sufism without Islam. Okay, there's no guide. You're gonna, like, everyone's gonna fall in a different, like, hole somewhere eventually. There's no, like, it's like a candle without a glass encasement, right? It's gonna blow out in the wind. It's just, it has no support structure around it, right? So that's the way I look at it.
Could
Okay.
I just ask you one question?
Yeah.
I mean, with your conversion, so I don't want to detract completely, but I was interested about your conversion. You said that you started looking into the Quran. Was there a process prior to this? Was it after you started reading the Quran that the ayats become evident to you?
Actually, no. The ayahs were evident to me beforehand. Like,
That was part of the fitra.
that was the fitra, which I didn't have a word for before I was introduced to Islam, right? It was just a kind of like, I felt like we all have an inner knowledge, and we're all connected, and there must be one truth. There must be one truth that we all share, because there can't be so many different, like, truths. Fundamentally, we're going to learn when we die what that truth is. Then, that was my understanding.
So you took that on. You was living in Dubai for 11 years.
Yeah.
But in the last 4 years ago, then you became Muslim. How did that happen?
Look, I mean, there are many things. Like I was saying, I was looking at the Palestinian situation. I've been to Palestine, right? I've been around Muslims a lot. I've listened to, the prayer to call. All of these things were like a calling, right? Slowly, bit by bit, piecemeal, over time, until eventually, I just thought, I'm going to see what this is about, and I just dived in and started praying 5 times a day, learning how to do all that stuff.
Was this like a very individual journey, or I know you was influenced
Very individual.
by the Adhan, etc.
Yeah.
But you was in Dubai. It's a very Muslim majority country, but it's also very diverse.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't characterize it as like a Muslim majority country, although it may be. It's a very cosmopolitan country, and if you want to, you can completely divorce yourself from any Islamic reference in your life there. You can go out, you can work, go out at the weekends, get drunk, go to festivals, parties, go and have prostitutes. Do you know what I mean? Like any cosmopolitan city, right? I don't want to say a bad word about Dubai. Dubai's been very good to me, but I had to look for it, and I found that it was very, very close and very tangible. I would start making friends with people because I saw a compassionate side to them. People who I saw as being Muslims, and I saw a compassionate side to them, and there's something I liked about that, and I was like, I need to speak to this person, right? So I started forging friendships with people who ended up being...
Were these Emiratis, or were they
like Egyptian, or Pakistani, or Syrian, or whatever. Basically believers from birth, not converts like me.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Again,
You're going to ask me a question?
Yeah.
Go on.
If you don't mind. On a slightly different tangent, you said you were with the EDL.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
What can I ask you, if you don't mind? What drew you to them?
Emotional, sort of like. Well, I was brought up in the like dominant Pakistani area.
Right.
Like what issues? Could you just be a bit specific? Was it stuff like Muslims are pedophiles? And
No.
What kind of?
You want about what led me to the EDL?
Yeah.
What led me to the EDL was I lived in a dominant Pakistani area. Went to a school that were half Pakistani, half white. There were Bengalis, there were black. But I always seen Bengalis and Pakistanis as the same people. So, and then the Pakistanis and the whites used to fight against each other.
Right.
But because I hung about with them, we used to fight the Pakistanis. I used to get jumped on the way home from school for like 2 years until I fought back.
Yeah.
So I held this in my heart, this revenge for the Pakistani community, which was at that time I thought the Muslims come from Pakistan. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessing be upon him, was a Pakistani. That's what I thought. So
Right. Okay.
But leading up to EDL, I come away from the church. I was a part of the Boys Brigade. I always believed in a creator.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, I always believed, but I never could believe that Jesus was any son of God or God.
Okay.
So I come away from the church and I decided to go to a different church in this country called the Pub. You know?
Yeah.
And then from there I met a guy who had the same. He had the same background as me. We related. Even in Islam now, if I don't relate with the speaker, I can't learn anything from him. I think we all have this you have to relate. So when I was relating to this guy who was talking about the same issue as me, we was both bouncing off each other. We started hanging about with each other.
This is the other Hamza, was it? You said earlier. Was it this other guy that you're speaking about?
This other guy that I don't want his name mentioned.
Okay, right.
I've spoke. We're still speaking that. So we both had the same sort of in the pubs and that we had the same sort of the Pakistanis this, the Pakistanis that. They did this, they did that, they did this. So from there, I kind of when we met another guy who had the same sort of thing, but this other guy was showing us videos of honour killings and FGM, and then he introduced us to a group of people who was all speaking about the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
So from my perspective, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm wrong. We're getting rid of the Muslims out of the country. So these people, they were nice people, but they were all on the same wavelength. But no, I didn't realise that I was marching with the EDL till maybe 2 months after I was with them.
Right.
And then meeting new people and seeing new people marching everywhere.
Was the EDL a way of everyone to kind of get together and meet people also? Was it
like a community. That's what I'm thinking.
It is. It is. I think when I read a lot of comments on my videos, and people said, "Oh, he's gone from EDL because he wanted to connect. He wanted to be with someone. He's gone to Islam because he wants." I'm not that sort of person. For me, I'm not bothered about the connection part of people. For me, it was because what I really believed and what I actually seen with the Pakistani community and stuff like that.
Okay,
so for me, it was like his passion. But for 2 years, I just used to listen to him, Sid and John and everyone.
Right.
I'm not saying the names.
No, I don't. I'm only interested in ideas.
So I was sat with him, and there was giving when you relate to people, you're just you trust him, and when you're in with my best friend, he killed himself at the time. So I went into a bubble of I've become addicted to cocaine and alcohol.
Okay.
So this become my family of people, and I never connected with my own family at that time. I was distant away from my family, everybody. I was distant from everybody, so all my brothers and sisters are at university and stuff like that. So I kind of distanced myself away from them. So when I went to these gatherings, I felt like sometimes I did actually feel like I was a part of something. Which I can't be right with EDL, but when I come to Islam, it wasn't because I felt a part of something. Because I came by my own to Islam.
Right, okay.
But the EDL, well, for me, from my experience of the EDL, they're nothing like the media portrays them. We weren't racist. We wasn't against a certain race. Tommy Robinson, I don't believe, and now I even say it in front of people, I don't believe he's racist. I believe he's got fascist.
Okay, but what is the support structure behind Tommy Robinson? Why? Huh?
Well, no, there's a support structure, but I thought you meant solution, sorry. There ain't a solution to what he's doing.
No, the support structure.
So the support structure is
it's something really fishy that I've noticed.
Funded by something bigger than... Because if we look at Tommy Robinson right now, and you look at him, he went from the EDL to Quilliam. He wouldn't have been not getting paid at the Quilliam. When he went to Quilliam, got paid, and he went to the elsewhere, got paid. And he calmed down a bit, then he come back out of nowhere. It's got to be funded from somewhere. You don't buy £7,000 screens for no.
Some people describe this as the Islamophobia industry.
He is a big one. Yeah, £2 billion. I've read a lot about the Islamophobia industry, and the left, even the left, they play a big part in it as well. They're pretending that it's like, oh, we're with the Muslims, but they're not really with the Muslims at all. You know, the left and the right is a divide in this country. I would not advise anyone to follow the right or the left. You know?
Another question, like obviously you had these EDL friends. How are your relationships with them now?
Yeah, but I've still got friends who are free Tommy and stuff like that. But they ask me questions, I give them answers. I think that
they're not racist, but would they be anti-Muslim? Or
I don't think we can look at the majority as the majority free Tommy. They're not against Islam. They're not against, but when the media is showing...
How can they not be? That's all he talks about.
He does.
Yeah.
But we can't plan...
What are they supporting then, if they're...
They do, because people are just looking at him and thinking, oh, well, he's doing right. The grooming gangs, you know, that's the media that's done that. So when he goes and defends, you've got to look at their perspective. When he goes and defends and he goes and to show these grooming gangs, the British people have no faith, they have no nothing. They're just seeing a British man trying to get rid of this problem. Do you get what I'm saying? Because obviously, if you can make a small little thing with a camera, a small little thing like that, and you can make it into the biggest thing on this planet. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy. Like a 50 second. I could do a minute clip now, and I could mention the word extreme, and then somebody could take that and then put that into a.
Okay, I'm obviously like following things on YouTube, like from Dubai, because I'm kind of not here, right? But I feel like I am here.
But one thing I do say about the British people, the majority of them are good.
Yeah, for sure. But you see, but Tommy Robinson,
there's only a minority.
When he got arrested, right? Immediately after that, I started getting feeds on YouTube from some Jewish guy, okay, who's called Yuri something. I don't know if you saw. It's Yuri something. I can't remember what his name. But you know, he was basically a Tommy supporter, Australian Tommy supporter, right? Australian accent, riling up kind of support for Tommy from Australia. And I'm thinking, why is this Jewish Australian picking up the Tommy Robinson?
Because it's viewed as a larger issue. It's viewed as a freedom of speech issue.
I think he's had a lot of international support, not just from Australia. I think he had a lot of
USA.
Yeah, but when I saw
these people are Islamophobic. A lot of them are anti-immigration, anti-Muslim. Some of them, I suppose, would be.
But some of it is staged. Some of this support is staged, right?
I won't say they all are. I was. Personally, I was Islamophobic. Yeah. I was someone who wanted all Muslims gone out.
What about anti-immigration then?
That's a difficult topic, man, because it's a buzzword that's thrown around a lot. Because immigration is a major issue. If you run a country, you have to control your borders, and now it's used, from my perspective, it's used as a buzzword. You're anti-immigration, you're anti-Islamic, you're a racist, blah blah blah. But it's not legitimate. I would argue it's not legitimate at all. All countries in the world control their immigration,
and that's a lack of education. Don't you think?
No,
not that, man. But just people say it.
People say that. Yeah.
It's a lack of education, because if you can't have a dialogue over immigration, and then someone calls you racist, then what sort of society are we going to live in?
Exactly, that's what I talk about. I try to talk about a lot here. It's about freedom of speech issues. What you can't say.
It's really bad that you have to come to a place like in London to do this. Yeah. Whereas if I do it on my streets, especially being a Muslim now, if I do it in my streets where I'm from, where before, I'd be fighting somebody, or somebody that'd be jumping me. And that's the problem. That's the problem with a society of people who.
Can you not see that this is all built up to be like this? I mean, like now people can't pray in communion here, right?
In
Speaker's Corner.
In a congregation.
And they've been doing that for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's never been a problem. So slowly, like the barriers are being closed on Islam, and it will be like banning hijab, like they're doing in other places in Europe. You know, banning new mosques.
Yeah, but the one problem I have with this free Tommy and freedom, they're all shouting freedom of speech, while they're trying to stop our freedom of speech. It's not freedom of speech, though. It's not a freedom of speech issue. Our freedom of speech.
So
we're not allowed our freedom of expression. I did the Dawah stall yesterday in Leeds. Yeah, a guy came past. Yeah. And there's some brothers do a Dawah stall and they're all wearing jubba.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not acceptable in this country. You boys they're worse than you. And I said, well, what about freedom of expression?
You were wearing one as well?
No, the brothers up top. And I said, what about freedom of expression and freedom of society? Don't you think that's a good thing in this country? He said, yeah. So what about their freedom of expression? And then he went like that. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So people want freedom of expression of what they think is normal.
Yeah.
Like somebody walks down here with a jubber, they don't think that's normal. Then that's not normal to this society. That's how they see it.
It's less common, for sure.
Freedom of speech is only acceptable when it agrees with us. Donald Trump recently came down, and there's a huge discussion about this big balloon, which I haven't seen, but they wanted to fly a big balloon.
They did fly a big balloon.
Donald Trump.
It was satire.
They flew it, right? But
I
there
don't
was
see the big
a
deal.
lot of people
I'm with you.
It's childish.
complaining.
What my problem is,
Consistency.
my problem with this big balloon, yeah, it's satire. But when they're having the far right or the Trump supporters want to do satire and they want to mock this and mock that, it's okay for them to have a laugh. It's satire. But when somebody else does it back, then they've got a problem. And now that is a big problem. That's a problem of the mind.
I don't think there's any consistency.
I don't get insulted. You cannot. There's not many people that can offend me because if you say something
Don't
about
say
something,
that here, man. Everyone's gonna try.
try. But do you know what? I won't get offended because if it's not true, why should I get offended?
Right.
If you're saying something to me that's not true, if you're talking about anything that's not true, how do I get offended over
Here's
that?
something better. Why should you value my opinion? That's a better thing.
What,
Say what you want.
We live in a society what's sensitive, you know, to the core, man. I mean, I live in a place, full of Kurdish Muslims, Somali Muslims, but they are the most. Some of them in the mosque are so sensitive, man. They don't know how to have a joke, and they don't know how to have me. I'm a banter guy. I'll walk past you and I'll give you banter. You know.
Yeah.
That's what my character is, and I never change my character. But when sometimes you need to calm down, bro, and calm down. We have that problems, you know. With not just with the Muslim, with the non-Muslim. You need to calm down. Well, what, you're trying to tell me not to be a human being now then because you don't like it? And I think
trying to control your behaviour.
All the mind, innit? It's all in mind.
Islam hasn't got a very good reputation, has it?
Yeah, it hasn't got a good reputation, but that's not.
Muhammad hasn't got. I've read the hadith.
You can read as many hadith as you want. You read the Quran?
Of course I have. What do you read about Quran? Hadith is
I want to get out of here, guys.
See you later.
I'll speak here. I'll see you in a second.
I don't
See you guys.
debate though.
You don't want to debate, so there's no point in making claims and then saying you don't want to debate. Funny guys out there.
Not debate to me. Either you are.
Make a debate and run.
What's your name?
It's Isak.
Who's this?
Make a claim and run.
Bro, does this belong to you?
It's been great.